Does anyone have any announcements?
CQ World Prefix Ready is this weekend, and W3USR is planning on being on the air. And we might be on the air again tonight. It depends if the university will let us in or not. So
You don't have keys?
no, I do have keys. It's just the university is officially shut down today, so I probably can't say that the station is open and everyone come like I usually try to say. So this week it's if students who have keys happen to be there of their own volition and happen to get on the air, that's a wonderful thing. And maybe I will happen to be there also.
That's
Well,
interesting that they shut the university
are they
down. Dartmouth
forecasting a
doesn't
large?
do that.
Are they forecasting a large amount of snow for today?
I think it's supposed to be very icy.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, it's the
I
icing
think
that people are worried about.
yeah, I think it's not really doing anything now, but yeah, everything in the area is shut down today. So
In Cleveland here, we've got 2/10 of an inch of ice on everything. I couldn't even walk on the driveway. It's horrible. I didn't even try to drive in.
That's what we get down here in Atlanta from time to time. And yeah, it's awful.
Nothing you can do about it.
Nope.
Just tight.
Just stay put.
that's it. So I think that's my
John-
main announcement.
John, while we've got a minute here, I'm importing your Grape One legacy data into Personal Space Weather Station Network. If you look on there, you may see a few odd things like instruments under your station that don't exist. I mean, it's going to take me a while to get all of the relationships and database things straightened out, but I've gotten your data imported from node 1 up through the end of August, and importing September and October right now.
Wow.
I'm going to go through and do that for all of those nodes. Just as a reminder, where I'm using a 6-digit node number. So if you look for node N00001, you'll find it there, but it's got only 6 digits in the number rather than 7 if you look for it on Personal Space Weather Station Network. So
Okay.
anyway, that's going along. It won't be without errors, but I will we're going to do a data quality package which will find those and let us fix them. It may just take a little while. So
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Okay. Just a quick heads up for you, Dr. Frizzell. There are only 6 or so not 6, 4 or so dates, including the 6th, where we could do meetings like this.
Okay.
And do presentations. So we may want to have.
Hello?
I think I've got an echo.
Yeah, Rachel, your audio is breaking up.
No, it's actually Michael's microphone is crackling.
Oh,
Okay. Well, there are only a few dates in which that works, so we may want to just set a date so that it's easier for everyone involved.
Okay, that sounds great. I think is Christina on the call right now? I don't see her. Either can you talk to her over at Case and see what works for her, or else we can talk about it with her when we see her on the Zoom tomorrow.
That sounds perfect. I was going to ask if you want these presentations to be at the same time.
It doesn't have to be on the same date.
Okay.
So no, it doesn't have to be. I mean, so again, the ideal is that we have, what am I saying? Okay, the ideal is that we have a good plan of what we're doing for the central database and also for the chief operations scientist. So that is certainly the ideal. But I think, you know, for the HamSCI presentation, depending on if it's just kind of giving an overview and it's not absolutely perfect, that's okay too. So, but that is what we want.
I figure I'll maybe let Bill, Christina pick their own dates.
Great.
I think Rachel's still breaking up, or is it just me?
I hear an echo, but my computer is sound off. And I don't hear it anymore. So
That was fine.
okay. In which case, it's come on.
Yes, I am.
Any updates?
Yes. So I'm sending Bill Eagle Key the code to convert the raw CSV files to the digital RF format, so he can basically benchmark this code on the server and see if it needs further optimization. Because now he has access to some sample raw data that I sent him in the past, and also the plotting code as well. So we should be able to benchmark everything on the server to see if there's any additional modification needed. Yeah, that's it for me this week.
Nice. Okay. Any updates from you, Dr. Frizzell, on the drive swap? So I talked to Dr. Zorman and he's good to go.
Okay. When you say he's good to go, what does that mean?
He would like to start generating shipping labels now.
Okay, great. So I gave John Gibbons told Salisa what drives he wanted to order. I gave Salisa the go ahead to order the drives. There was a slight delay because of issues with federal bureaucracy. But I think we are currently allowed to draw on the grant. So I said go ahead and order it, and I haven't heard back from Salisa whether or not that's been ordered, but
Those aren't
But she-
coming out of China, are they?
No,
Good.
no, these are from Western Digital directly.
Good.
One thing I did want Salisa to check on is she can get the box or the drives in individual boxes. I know they can ship them that way. Usually when they ship them in bulk like this, they come in one box
Mhm.
in a bunch of little foam slots. And if we can get them individually wrapped like they would normally send them to individuals, that would save us probably about 2 weeks worth of work.
That sounds great. So I would I saw
Nice.
I did not see Salisa respond to your email about
Okay.
that yet. So maybe just ping her again.
Okay,
And again, the university is closed today, so she may not be in the office, but she usually works from home. So
okay,
if this is the case, so yeah, just ping her. And as far as I'm concerned, I've given her authorization to send you the drives. So just work directly with Salisa on making
Okay.
that happen.
okay.
For the shipping labels, if we are sending them to Alabama, I'll need a best address to send them to in Alabama. Oops. Must have hit something. Weird.
Richard, did you said something about shipping to Alabama?
Yes. And
Okay,
you
you're talking about grape one.
grape 2,
Grape 1 and grape 2 drives.
unless we're sending them somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, this would be only grape 2 drives. You're right.
Looking for a shipping address. I guess my question is, are we still sending them to Alabama? And if so, could you email me the best address to use for that?
How many drives we talking about here?
32?
Oh boy.
And covering a period of what time frame?
About a year.
Okay,
Well,
so
they're gonna be all
that's
showing up within the next month.
this is the full bandwidth data from
Yes,
the first year.
yes, your audio seems to have cut off.
It's Starlink is a little bit flaky here.
Ah, okay.
How's it
there you
now? So this is the first several months of observations from the Grape 2 full bandwidth. Is that, do I understand
are.
right?
From March of last year till present.
Okay.
It's going to be almost a full 4 terabytes per station. The drive is going to be pretty much full. And we're swapping them out, and Bill Blackwell and I have come up with a scheme to mount the hard drive a little bit differently so it doesn't interfere with the boot if it doesn't show up. Actually, Bill came up with the idea, and I thought it was excellent.
Explain that a little bit more.
We were mounting the Grape 2 partition in the operating system of the Raspberry Pi, but now we're going to actually have it mount itself in media, so it's not conditional for the boot. And then when we see it there, we'll remap it back into the hard drive or the operating system drive. It's basically a logical link instead of a hard mount.
Now, am I going to have any problems with permissions trying to access this data?
No, it's the same permissions that it was running with all along.
Well,
It's
what
just-
does that mean? Do I
For
have?
you, it means nothing. It's independent of you. It just makes the boot of the Grape 2 now more reliable.
Okay, well, these 32 drives, are they, is the permissions on everything set up so the data is readable by any user?
It should be. I believe that's the way we're saving it. It's an ext4 format.
If that sounds okay with you, Bill, you can send me, I emailed you all. I can send you a refresher email, but just what the best shipping address is. Because if so, we can actually start generating the shipping labels before the new hard drives actually arrive. We can have shipping labels ready to go and sent out.
Are you planning to send these all in one great big box?
No, they're all coming from individuals.
Yes.
These are from the
Okay.
actual stations as they do the drive swap out. And I'm
Otherwise-
planning on putting a sticker right on the drive that has its node number on it so they don't get confused.
And you say there's going to be 4 terabytes of data per drive?
Yes.
Now, as I recall, the plan, I think, was to convert these data to digital RF and compress it in the process, if I recall correctly. Wasn't that the plan?
Yes. To put DRF on the PSWS server.
Yeah, I guess I better drop everything else I'm doing and get this software Kong's working. I hadn't had a chance to look at it yet because I've been too busy with importing the Grape 1 data, and I've been able to import
Yeah.
several months of a couple of users. So it's probably gonna take a year to get this imported, what we've got already.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of data.
The upside is we already have the physical drive. So the big thing that we need to do right now is not on the Alabama end. It's just physically swapping the drives so that we can keep recording data.
Yeah, I've got a hard drop date of probably end of March when the systems came online, because they all have about exactly a year's worth of data before the drive overflows. So that's what's pushing me to get this done before we run out, the disk drive overflows. But you'll have the drive in your hands and you'll have it for up to a year, and then we can swap them out again in a
Yes.
year from now.
Okay.
So it's not going to be a crisis on your end. It's more of a crisis for us to get the drives in place and swapped out. So as soon as I get the drives here, it's going to be a drive formatting party in my office.
Lucky you.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. But I'll send you maybe an updated email. Just so we have a shipping address for you.
Yeah, we don't want to have the drives returned. That would not be good.
And also then we can run things in parallel a little bit here because the shipping labels can be generated even before we get our part.
Right. And I can make my 32 sets of stickers before I get the drives.
I think I have your current email, Bill. Pulled it off of one of the grape emails. Okay.
I'll send you an update on that, Rachel. We have had a problem with, my office is in a building with a whole bunch of law enforcement things, and if they don't get a pretty specific address, they will reject the shipment, do it for security purposes.
Oh,
So,
Okay.
would it be better to ship them to your house, maybe?
no, it's probably best if they go to the university, but you just have to make sure that you use a full shipping address, which I will give Rachel by email.
Okay,
Perfect.
fair enough.
Okay. So then we should have shipping addresses for the grape ones. So we'll send the grape ones their shipping labels with the new drive. So they'll have a box that comes with the new drive that goes directly to them. And then they'll just take out the new shipping label, swap out the drives in the box, plop on the new shipping label, and send it to Alabama.
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay.
And Bill's going to have to get his scuba gear out because he's going to be up to his eyeballs in data.
Bill, any updates?
Nothing beyond what I've already just reported.
Perfect. Okay. Let me check our list. Is Rob on? And or anyone from the antenna team who would like to give an update?
Yeah,
Rob. There he is.
I'm here. I think Michael's here. He's here. He can. Is Michael Owen here?
Yes.
Thought I saw.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I am in receipt of 5 of Glenn's single antenna system things to kits that have to be assembled. The initial phase we've been engaged in, there's some sort of alpha sites that we've been looking at. Elmer's site in Long Island. Glenn has an antenna up at his house in Colorado, and I have one up here. Actually, the components of it here that I've had were not really the latest version. So I got that installed a couple of days ago, and we've been looking at the results of that. I'm going to install a second antenna here too, just so we get a comparison of two of them before we then move that elsewhere. Dave Witten has a remote farm in northwestern Missouri, which should be a nice quiet site. So far, some of the results we're getting of this antenna are good, maybe even very good, but it remains to be nailed down. The details of what would be the most efficient form of assembly too, if it came to that, also have to be kind of narrowed down. As it stands, there's a preamp that sits between two elements of a dipole. Each length of the dipole is 3 meters, total 6 meters on a telescoping mast. Ethernet cable that runs to a shack board, which does power injection and some filtering, and then a short coax to the radio with or without, ideally with a combiner to combine, because it's not strictly speaking a traditional dipole. It's actually two monopoles that then can get merged into a single signal into the radio. The DX engineering antenna has been performing quite well as well, and so the relative merits of the two systems will be an interesting exercise. One of the issues that we might consider is whether the quality of the single antenna system will suffice to do double duty for both the HF component of the DAISY research and the VLF component of the research. If it can serve both functions, it may have some utility in that regard. I'm hopeful, though, that we can start comparisons this week, and Dave Whitten and I are planning an assembly of a kit that we can potentially take up to Northwest Missouri. I did say I have 5 kits here, though, and so there may be some sites that we can profitably get going in the next few weeks once some of this initial testing is done at some other sites to check it out. I think Rob had a plan to take at least one to Scranton and set it up for Nathaniel or at Nathaniel's place. There's also a possibility one could go to KFS out in California, so we could do a comparison between the system, the existing radios and antennas out there, and the single antenna system. And I think that's about it. Rob, is there anything else that I've missed?
Let's see. Well, not on the antenna. I think you have you've properly identified it. So it's yeah, everything that I'm aware of. I'm not very focused on the antenna this week. I'm going to really focused on Whisper Demon and Orange
Well,
Bison. But
we were discussing, and I had a conversation with Gary last night on the phone too, on thinking through, or just beginning to think through, some of the issues that we'd want to keep in mind to guide the selection of sites. Among them were some sort of high-level screening that could be done without even knowing anything about a particular site, just by knowing where there are powerful broadcast stations, AM and or FM, and do some screening at that level, looking in effect for generally quiet sites or people who are in a position to volunteer in places we know, at least with regard to high-powered broadcast stations, are going to be useful. As for what conditions are actually on a given site, that's going to be a little more interesting or tricky. Among the things we thought about were having a volunteer do some form of WWV or whisper scanning, so we can see something of what the quality of the scanning is at that site. If there's a terrific amount of noise that limits whisper spots or is interfering with WWV reception or things of that nature, that may have a bearing on whether we decide it's a good site or not. But those are just some of the preliminary thoughts we were having about it.
Michael, remind me what the possibilities are for VLF on the DX engineering antenna. Its spec only goes down to 100K.
Right. And I don't know, I have not done an in-depth study of that. One of the problems is I don't have a proper I don't have a proper VLF receive set up here to put it through its paces.
Yeah,
and that
I-
888 does not
Yeah.
do well down there without
I'm-
some modification.
I'm just speaking anecdotally somewhat, but my feeling is it probably won't be sufficient. And Jonathan has spent a tremendous amount of time optimizing his particular system for VLF considerations, and none of those optimizations would be in this antenna. So my gut, I mean, we can still certainly have this discussion, but my gut feeling is it's not going to be sufficient.
Yeah.
You know,
I
there's a
wonder if
problem.
we might talk to DX engineering, because it's
Yeah.
usually just a matter of coupling caps.
There's
'Cause,
no,
What do you mean,
pardon
no?
me. Well,
There
there's
are lots
another,
of
there's another,
vertical whips that work down at VLF, and it's just a
What the-
matter of the coupling caps.
the problem with a VLF antenna, and it depends how low you plan to go, but if the antenna moves, then it generates a signal in the Earth's magnetic field. So, I mean, I made an antenna for use at a very, very low frequency, like 70 hertz. And we made it out of a meter of a 2-inch diameter aluminum rod, solid, to live with the local noise that would be generated by the antenna swinging in the wind. So
Yeah,
that's something to
it's the element
consider.
for this guy.
Yeah,
Nathaniel, you have one set up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Jonathan's design. And I
Oh,
mean,
no, I mean the DX engineering one.
no, I don't have a DX engineering
Oh,
one
okay.
set up right now.
You don't?
No.
Yeah,
yeah, the
what
coupling
is
cap,
it?
but we're not
Okay.
looking to go down to 70 hertz, but I don't think.
well, it's,
But I
it's-
understand your point.
it's still a problem that, I don't know how low you're
But there-
planning to go,
There are
but
a lot of people using vertical whip electrostatic
yeah,
antennas.
well, just
like a
make it sturdy. That's
Right. It's just a matter of how sturdy it is. I know I've got loops that work at VLF, but the coupling caps have to be appropriate.
I agree with that. But I just wanted to point out this other problem, which,
But what
And
I'm
that would
saying
have
is
to
there
be
might be a
satisfied.
simple modification that we could do, but we'd probably have to get guidance from DX engineering on it.
The that would require some adjustment in Glenn's design, because the mast currently part of the design is one of these pop-up telescoping windsock type fiberglass
Yeah, that's
rods,
pretty.
which is
yeah.
going to wobble around unless it's
That definitely
securely
is.
guyed.
Right.
So that's an issue. Dave Witten has a couple of I don't know how he got them. They were drill rods, fiberglass drill rods. They're about an inch or inch and a half thick. Unfortunately, they're only 15 feet long, but and I don't know where he got them. Originally, they were 30, and they would have been much more rigid, but and
Yeah,
non-conducting, you know.
yeah, I've
So
got some experience with fiberglass rods. We've used them on rockets for booms. And I've gotten stuff from DX Engineering, which is kind of flexible. But then there are other forms that are quite stiff. It's a matter of design. But we
Uh,
would have to source it.
But because of the noise is so high at the low frequencies, you can get away with, like I say, I was receiving signals on a 1 meter antenna at 70 hertz. Now,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the preamp has to have almost infinite input impedance
Right.
to work.
That's
but
actually not too difficult this stage.
no, but it's just something you need to consider in the design. But the antennas can be pretty small,
Right.
and still produce, as long as you can hear the noise, you know.
Yeah. Well, I was able to receive 24 kilohertz NAA from a rocket with 60 centimeter separation between a couple of spheres. So it doesn't take much.
No,
I mean, this is an interesting discussion, but I'm not sure it's appropriate to leave Jonathan out at the moment, the guy who's invested
Okay.
years and years in what he's got working so far. I wouldn't
Yeah.
go too far without his input.
I completely agree with that.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up about the DX engineering, and you did ask whether it would work at VLF, and it would need modifications, the bottom line.
sounds like the single
what
antenna
is
system would too.
Yeah, what is the requirement in terms of low frequency response? How low is Jonathan investigating? I'd ask Kim.
Okay.
Rather than any of us maybe misstating
Okay.
something and going off into the weeds. I'd
Yeah,
rather
he's
wait
down
till
in
he's
the
present.
kilohertz.
Oh, well. Anyway, whether it's appropriate or not, it'll be easy to evaluate. It'll be there. Glenn's antenna, he hasn't really looked, but it's basically can go down to DC. Um, with the with the if you remove the blocking capacitors, but it may not be appropriate for that, so let's leave it aside. We'll find out when I come and install the SA at your place, and it should be easy to quickly evaluate whether it's at all useful. So at VLF, it would be nice to have one antenna. Of course, I think that would be but we need not invest much time in discussing whether it's appropriate. We'll find out quickly.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? QCC, I guess. Any Whisper Grape updates?
Well, the major one for me is that I have, I think, pretty much definitively proven that we can use the Orange Pi 5 for this project. In the last week, especially since the last meeting, I have learned more than I ever knew about CPU architectures and caches, controls, and so on. And it turns out that almost even on high-end CPUs, that K9Q radio, not just for its Whisper Daemon application, but in general, K9Q radio really can stress even the highest end CPUs, and in ways that cause it to drop data. And that problem is addressed by assigning the various tasks of K9Q radio and Whisper decoding, assigning them to individual cores. And that's a tedious process to do generally, and I don't yet know if it's even possible to realistically automate the assignment, but of tasks to cores. But in the case of the Orange Pi, 5. There's a very excellent assignment of tasks to cores that results in absolutely perfect operation and for our application. It's we can get all the whisper bands, all the FT4 and 8 bands, all the of course the time signals. They're all decodable, and we now have a way to know if there are any errors in the reception chain. So I'm very pleased with to learn all this, and I'm in the process now with the help of Scott and N5 and TNL going through at multiple Whisper Daemon beta sites, only one of which that I operate here at KFS has an Orange Pi 5. But it's performs really well. So the benefits of this for our project, among others, is that the Orange Pi 5 runs off of 5 volts, and the power of the 888 comes from it. So the Daisy 2 installations need only one 5-volt power supply. It needs to be hefty, 5 amps or so. The peak power consumption, well, the amperage of the Orange Pi plus of 888 is about 2.5 amps at 5 watts, 5 volts. So that actually stresses things like the USB cable that powers the Orange Pi 5. So there's a bunch of issues that are peeling the onion on this, but if that's all done properly, I think we can construct a Daisy 2 personal weather station that is runs off of a single 5-volt power supply that costs, I think, significantly less, not than the cost of one based upon the B-Link. It's and includes many all the features we could desire want, and they could all fit in a small box, and that would be one that could be used to go out and as a phase 2 evaluation of our candidate QTHs. We could ship one of those boxes out with a small antenna of some sort. And do a second stage of the evaluation of sites at very low cost and simplicity for the volunteers. We could take this thing out of the box, basically plug in 5 volts, and we'd be able to log in and look at the spectrum and see if the site looks like a reasonable candidate. And because it is there are dramatic differences between QTHs, and ones that you might think are not, that would be good candidates can turn out to be difficult. In Michael's case, he's got a very powerful FM transmitter nearby. And whether you use the single antenna or a DX engineering, that FM antenna, that XN signal, can overload an active antenna, and you end up with FM stations being shown up as your local FM station shows up as an intermod product down in the shortwave band. So these are issues that many of the issues that really require that you install, and as a kind of phase 2 of selection process, I think would require sending something out, not a person, but a little, $15 postage, priority mail box, and have them plug it in and turn it on, and we can log in. Michael and I can log in and take a look at the site and see whether it's a reasonable candidate. Whatever the antenna system we use, we need to at least, I think, do that. We have several. Michael's is a quiet site, one would think, except he's got a 100,000 watt FM broadcast station 5 or 6 miles away. We can of course anticipate that by looking at broadcast station maps relative to the QTH, candidate QTH. But these are that may not be sufficient. There may be the local highway patrol transmitter or something could be a source of overload events and so on. So I think we're well into this process, and I do think we have a design, an architecture and products that will work for us. So anyway, I feel like I'm coming out the end of a almost 7 year long, but certainly a year and a half of working with the RX 888. It has its problems. It's not it's not a perfect device. I look forward to us having our own receiver. Uh, the 888 is a very leaky device. Clocks tend to be leak out into the environment over the USB cable. It's very subject to RFI and things like that. So it really our own receiver would be a better choice. But lacking that, the 888 is a wonderful candidate. The combination of it and K9Q radio are really exceptional. We get insights now from sites that I think are really really extraordinary. Anyway, that's my report. I don't know.
Rob, I have a quick question. My RX
Yeah.
888 is almost deaf at 20 kilohertz. Is this common, or do I have a problem?
Yes, very well-known problem. There's two elements to the deafness at the low frequency. One is that there's a bias T inductor that's completely useless, I think, in almost every application. So there's instructions. Clint K7OEI has a blog post on how to remove that bias T inductor, and that greatly improves the low frequency and ELF performance.
Yeah, but
However,
not at 25 kilohertz.
But there remains an inductor that is a unbalanced inductor in the transmission chain that impairs the low frequency response. And in my Whisper Demon, we had a long discussion about this yesterday in my weekly Whisper Demon user group call about is it possible and what are the trade-offs in removing that balanced inductor that remains, that the RF amplifier that's in the RX 888 is fed, there's a series of unnecessary componentry ahead of it, but it goes into a variable gain RF amplifier, in turn that amplifier feeds the analog to digital converter. And that's a wonderful feature of the 888. It means that basically you can't it's impossible to overload the 888. But they chose to put it's a balanced input analog amplifier, RF amplifier, and they chose to put a transformer to take the unbalanced input from the SMA connector and turn it into a balanced feed to the RF amplifier. Now, at high frequencies, that results in a 3 dB improvement in the signal noise ratio, or the noise figure. But that transformer introduces a low frequency pole. Now, we discussed yesterday, could one pull that out, and at the cost of a higher noise figure, which is compensated for by the LNA that's inevitably in front of these things. Could you remove the RF amplifier and basically take the RX 888's response down to DC, or whatever the pole is, the blocking capacitor you'd want to put there, and that's a possibility. None of us in the Whisper Demon group look at those frequencies, so making that modification to the 888 isn't something that's on anyone's agenda. But if anybody here is interested in it, it would be a wonderful project, and I'm sure Clint and the others in the Whisper Demon group would be eager to collaborate and help someone in making such an evaluation.
Yeah, Rob, I could help with that. I work with transformers that are kilohertz to megahertz, so
Well, good, but that would be an alternative is,
Yeah.
replacing the transformer with something else. So,
Yeah, the
or,
transformer, I believe, is a 1 to 2
yes.
ratio. So it's like actually a 6 dB step up, but when properly matched. But it's yeah, we could change that transformer out probably.
Well, that would be great. I have extra triple A's. Dave,
Yeah, I've got a
if you
few.
want.
I got a
Okay.
few. I just point me at the transformer. I'll take a look at it.
Okay. Well,
That shouldn't be hard to see.
let me send you a link to Clint's blog post on the if you don't have it, his post on his evaluation of the triple Eight's
Yeah,
input
please do.
section.
Yeah.
And oh, it'd be wonderful. That'd be a wonderful project and collaboration. It seems potentially that with that the triple eight and K9Q radio could be used down to ELF frequencies. There's nothing other than that that impairs the low frequency response of the AAA space systems.
Yeah,
Um,
I've worked with transformers that will at least get down to 10 kilohertz and might be able to get below that.
okay, well, there you are.
Yeah,
We are mostly
we'll
at
work
this
on it.
point. Mostly at this point, I've been running the triple eights at 129 megasamples, and I can't do that with the Orange Pi, but with the yeah, it seems actually it might be able to. The Orange Pi, I might be able to run it at 129. I mean, for most applications, that the benefit of that is that you can listen to the 6 meter band, although the noise figure of the of the triple eight is gets really bad up there, and there are and antennas, a single antenna. Well, the single antenna, Glenn's a single antenna works quite well up to 2 meters from DC to 2 meters, amazingly, which is in fact a problem, of course, because it means that the single antenna, and it seems likely the DX Engineering are pretty good FM antenna, FM band receivers. So you've got to deal with the FM band especially if you're using an active antenna, because you can put a low pass filter, anti-aliasing filter, but the overloads in intermod products occur in the amplifier at the antenna, and the filter is after that. You can't filter out the FM band on a high impedance point in the for an active antenna input. So at N3AGE in Long Island, he is 100 feet from the water. He gets on his 6 meter, long vertical active dipole. He gets over a volt peak um, into the active antenna input. So he's had to, in order to avoid overload there, he had to shorten. That's the only way you can do it. Shorten the active antenna length. So this is something that this is something that would have to be done with any active antenna. You'd have to look at a de-engineering. We don't know its overload characteristics and its high frequency characteristics. But even if we end up using it, this is a characteristic of any active antenna that needs to be understood and monitored. So, the Elmer N3NG is not a candidate for our for a Daisy 2 deployment. I mean, you have to apart from everything else, his just the FM signals and the AM signals are so strong. Especially now, he says if he goes a mile away from Long Island Sound, he's right on the sound. Go a mile away, you can't even, some of these signals you can't even hear. So his specific to the almost 100-meter location is a significant element in evaluating whether a site is suitable. So I think Michael and I have, and Glenn and Elmer and others have begun to understand characteristics, especially of active antenna use, that I certainly wasn't aware of, and I haven't seen it discussed widely, but not that I've looked for it, but it's certainly, it's not, so it's not, there's just all kinds of effects that we need to look for in evaluating sites and antennas that we're going to put at sites.
I need to sign off and get on to my next telecon. I think it sounds like everything's going in a good direction. I do like trying to think about how to integrate all of these different components better because certainly I think from a citizen science participant perspective, if we are able to get it down to, less components, a single antenna to handle VLF, HF, all of that stuff, I think that'll be much easier for participants to handle. Of course, we do have to weigh that with performance and all sorts of other considerations. But I'm very happy with the way everyone's thinking about this, and I think it's good.
Okay. Okay.
Don't forget, HamSCI workshop abstracts are due February 10th, so you can get those in. If you have any questions on that, feel free to email Gary or me. We have our 4 o'clock telecon this afternoon. Gary, do you want to say anything before we sign off?
Nope, I think we're going to be talking about sporadic E this afternoon. We've got a fairly well-known author from the amateur community, so it should be interesting.
Thank you. And Rachel, would you like to do the final sign off?
Oh, I have nothing else to add, so just 73.
73.
73.
Three.
Kong still on? Is Kong still on the conference? Kong, you there?
I believe he left.
Okay, I'll have to get with him later.